Miis, the character creator that Nintendo put into one console that unintentionally became the face of the company for over 10 years. But it seems like every year further away we get from the 2010s is another year that the Miis fade into more and more obscurity. How can one of the most recognizable figures in all of gaming be pushed aside by Nintendo in favor of games with no Miis in them at all, or even worse, Mii clones? Today we are going to delve into the history of the Miis, to find out what made them so special. Are they ever going to come back? And to understand the rise and fall of Nintendo's Miis. History. Now the Mii story goes further back than you might think, starting in 1984, when games looked like this. I have no idea what's going on there. The Famicom, Nintendo's first home console, had been out for 3 years at this point, and they decided because it was doing so well, let's release a disc system for the console. Now the Famicom used cartridges for its games, meaning that this disc system would let the Famicom play discs. Floppy disks, that is. We are still in the 1980s. And a young Shigeru Miyamoto, you know, the guy who made Mario and Zelda, he made a small prototype for this disk system called the Make Someone You Know project. And what you did in this prototype was, well, you made someone that you knew, obviously. This was his attempt at a very early character creator. You see, at the time, most games didn't let you customize your characters. This was something really different for the industry. Once you'd made someone that you know, there was then a separate disc that you put into the console. This disc was called the scenario disc, and this disc animated a scenario with the characters you'd just made. Look, he wasn't very creative with names. Excited with this new prototype, Miyamoto showed his friends at Nintendo, and according to him, they literally just said, "How could this be a game?" Can you imagine putting hours into a game for just someone to go, "Nah mate, this is bad"? Oh wait, that's YouTube! Although this prototype never released, this was the start of the Mii editor on the Wii. But oh boy, did we have a long way to go. And oh my god, did Miyamoto have a bunch of similar ideas to pitch. I mean, he had a lot of them. Fast forward to 1999, the N64 is out and games now look... well, they look spiky. Nintendo are once again releasing a disc add-on for their cartridge-based console, called the Nintendo 64 DD. And this disc drive played discs. It was just a normal disc drive. It was 1999 at this point. Floppy disks they were gone. So Miyamoto dusted off his 16-year-old idea and slapped it into one of 3 Mario Artist games. This game let you create someone that you know. I'm not going to do that again, I promise. And use the character you had created in different animations, much like the concept for the last game on the Famicom. However, the character customization was a lot deeper and in 3D. And while the animations, well, they looked like this. Pure nightmare fuel. Miyamoto had done it. At last, the game he finally wanted to make was a reality, and he could stop and relax. What? He didn't stop. He did this 2 more times. Now, the N64 disc drive did not sell well, meaning that Mario Artists did not sell well. But in 2002, when the Game Boy Advance camera released, Miyamoto saw an opportunity to not only make a game that was well received, but also a game that sold well. However, different from the 2 games before it, this game would take a photo of your face and create a character based on it. It would then transfer that character over to the GameCube, where you could see different animations of these characters play out again. And at E3 2002, we got our first look at this project. This was it, a character creation game that would finally sell well. So, how many copies did it sell? Oh, yeah, the game never released. After the failure of the last one, I just don't think Nintendo wanted to touch a character creation game at all. Finally, we have made it to the Wii. Well, sort of. You see, when planning for the Wii, Miyamoto had an idea. A character creator where you could make your own character for the whole console, instead of just one game. He called this new concept the Kokeshi concept. Finally, he was taking his project names away from making somebody that you know. Kokeshi dolls are these little Japanese dolls with big heads and cylindrical bodies, and they're starting to look a little bit familiar. Now, just by pure chance, in another department of Nintendo, the team responsible for working on the DS was making a character creator for the DS. The DS team liked their character creator so much that they went straight to President of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata. Satoru Iwata took one look at this character creator and basically said, I think Miyamoto's working on something very similar and went straight away and showed Miyamoto. Miyamoto loved it and immediately moved all of the team working on the DS prototype over to working on the Wii prototype with him. Everyone loved the early Mii prototype. Staff members at Nintendo got to test it, making caricatures of high-ranking people at Nintendo, and it all seemed to be going really well. But they ran into an issue. The editor was really good at making Japanese faces, but Western faces? Not so much. They found this out when a couple of Nintendo employees from Nintendo of America and Europe Nintendo flew over to Japan to have a look at the prototype. In preparation for this, the team had made characters that looked like them, and they hated it. Miyamoto's idea was shot down again, but this time he wasn't having it. The team at Nintendo Japan knew they had something good here, so they had to fix it. So a staff member at Nintendo asked all of the team from Nintendo of America to send a picture of their face over to them. And with these photos, they studied a bunch of different facial characteristics so they could get the editor just right for everyone. After they'd made these tweaks, they showed off the prototype again. The feedback from Japan was still positive, and they had won over the Western offices as well now. So after years of Miyamoto trying to make his dream game a reality, in 2006, the Wii released, with the Mii Channel right there, second on the home screen. Wii! So you launch your Wii for the first time, and before you put that cardboard-sleeved Wii Sports into the console, you see something else. To the right of the disc channel, you see something called the Mii Channel. And so, it begins. Here you can create a Mii of whoever, or whatever, you wanted. From your uncle, to Jesus, to a burger. These are all Miis I actually made on my own Wii. The Mii Channel gave you enough freedom to make basically anything you liked while keeping it incredibly simple to do so. You have to remember that the Wii was aimed at casual audiences, meaning that most people that were making Miis hadn't even picked up a controller before, never mind made a character for a video game. As well as being able to create a brand new Mii and a Mii from a preset, there was so much to do within the Mii Plaza. You could line them up in age order. You could have male Miis on one side, female Miis on the other. You could pick them up and they'd just wiggle about. While they were picked up as well, you could delete them and send them into the void forever. Or you could send them off to the parade. The parade was a way of uploading your Miis online so that other people could download them. And while you were in the parade, you could just pick up a Mii that you liked and put it onto your Wii. Or if you were me as a child and had no idea how to connect your Wii to the internet, you could just send your Miis here to walk for eternity as punishment for something that they did in real life to upset you. I promise you I was a normal child. Wii games. There was a grand total of 48 games that used Miis in some form on the Wii. Everything from playing as your Mii on Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games to, FIFA. For some reason. Of course, the most famous example of Miis in games was Wii Sports. Here you could not only play as the Miis that you created, but every single CPU you versed was a Mii. You had Julie, Mike, Shooter, and of course, the god of Wii Sports, the boss of all bosses, the chaddiest of all chads, Matt. Along with Wii Sports, Nintendo released a bunch of other games in the Wii line. Wii Play, Wii Music, Wii Party, and Wii Fit. Each of these games used your Mii as the main character and consisted of a bunch of mini games. Or in Wii Fit's case, a mode to tell a 7-year-old boy that he's obese. Why did you do this, Nintendo? These games cemented Miis as a core part of the Wii experience. And this was cemented even further with the release of Wii Sports Resort in 2009. Wii Sports Resort was the sequel to Wii Sports. Obviously. But instead of just playing the sports in completely separate locations, in Wii Sports, each sport took place on an island called Woohoo Island. This was the first time we'd seen sort of a home for the Miis instead of just a bunch of dislocated sports venues. With each sport you played, you saw more and more of the island. Playing tennis in the tennis court in the city, to playing golf on its own island, to hitting Miis off the edge of a rope bridge to their inevitable death. They are definitely dead from that fall. This gave Miis more character than ever before. And the piece de resistance, I don't know if that's how you say it, of all of that was flying around Woohoo Island. This flyover minigame let you see all of the island and all the detail that went into it. From the lighthouse, to the castle, to to just flying inside of the volcano, which I know every single person did. Miis now felt like they had their own world, their own place. And this gave Miis more character than ever before. And this would continue further into the Mii games that Nintendo released in the future. That's foreshadowing for you to watch more of the video, which you should do. Please. You should also subscribe while you have this bit. Okay, cool, thanks. As well as the standalone Mii games, the Wii had a bunch of games that just let you play as your Miis within the games. The best example of this was Mario Kart Wii. Now, not only could you play as your favourite Mario characters, but you could also play as yourself in Mii form. You could also do this in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. And in the sequel, Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games, there was even a plaza where you could go and buy costumes for your Mii. In fact, as a kid, I saw that the most expensive thing in the store was the original Mario theme song as a menu sound. And I was at my friend's house and I accidentally bought it. It was like 3 million coins. He'd literally been saving up for months. I think about this every night. So, Miis were everywhere on the Wii, and most of the inclusions were pretty good. But a weird thing happened. Having Miis in your game kind of became a seal of quality for people who didn't really know a lot about games. It would be, Miis are in this game, I'll buy this one. So a lot of games that couldn't have Miis in them decided to make their own versions, for some reason. This is Go Vacation. Basically, Wii Sports Resort, and wouldn't you know, fake Miis. A lot of games companies did this on Shovelware, just to try and make their games feel a little bit more legitimate. This just showed the power of the Miis during the Wii era of gaming. The allure and appeal was huge. This era of Nintendo featured Miis so heavily, and the Mii editor was almost seen as a game of its own. And as the Wii slowed down, Nintendo got ready for their next console. And I'm sure it was going to be a smash hit. The Wii U. It was not a smash hit. In November 2012, we got the Wii U, the sequel to the Wii. Or at least, I think it was. The marketing was very confusing, but we'll get back to that. Much like the Wii U had its own Mii Channel. However, entering it, you were greeted with some new options. Obviously, you could create a Mii, but then there was also an option to send Miis from your Wii or your 3DS onto your Wii U. As well as this, you can now share Miis with a QR code, making it easier than ever to share literally the most cursed Miis of all time. And the final option was just select Miis. And it didn't take you to a Mii Plaza, just a normal menu where you could pick your Miis. This is because the Miis you had created on your console would now appear on the home screen when you booted up the Wii U. And if you were connected to the internet, you could also see other people's Miis, sometimes with chat bubbles above their heads. Which leads us into the biggest thing Nintendo did for Miis in this generation. Miiverse. Miiverse was Nintendo's own social media platform baked right into the Wii U. You see, every time you launched the console, you would load into this plaza. This plaza was called Wara Wara Plaza. Here you would see your own Miis, as well as other people's Miis that had posted onto Miiverse. The Miiverse post would appear as a speech bubble above their head, and the icon that those Miis were stood under would be the group that they posted them in. You see, it worked a little bit like Reddit, where each community had their own forum to post on. So you could have a group for Mario, a group for Splatoon, a group for Hulu, for some reason. But unlike Reddit, it was a bit more family friendly, or at least it tried to be. You see, you could post in 3 different ways. You could do a text post, like a tweet, or an X, or a whatever you call it now. You could post a YouTube clip on there, but only from certain YouTube videos. Or you could post a drawing that you did on the Wii tablet. And all these things were moderated by Nintendo. But oh boy, did that not stop people from posting the wildest things onto Miiverse. I mean, look at this. I'm so sorry you had to see that. This feature gave the Wii U a real sense of community. And although the console didn't sell very well, people who use this platform speak of it incredibly fondly. And what was at the center of all of it? That's right, Miis. Your Mii was your profile picture. It really added a new dimension to the characters. In fact, they were no longer characters. They were now representations of yourself. Having hundreds of Miis right there on your home screen, talking about new games they were playing, commenting on funny posts, sharing images that hopefully weren't of Mario characters in compromising positions. It really was an amazing time to be a Nintendo fan for the few people who were one at that time. And over everything, this showed us how much Nintendo still cared about the Miis. Just a little side note to that, the advert for Miiverse was awful. It showed a nerd with no friends telling his action figure that he'd completed a level in the game. This is literally Nintendo calling us, their fans, friendless nerds. Just making fun of us. Where have I seen that before? Oh. Yeah. Along with Miiverse, the Wii U also had a bunch of games that included Miis in some way. Wii Sports Club, which was just Wii Sports but online, and you had to pay for the individual sports. That one was a bit weird. Wii Party U, Nintendo Land, you could play as your Miis in Mario Kart again. Wii Fit U. But I really don't want to talk about that one again. Please don't make me play Wii Fit again. But the biggest addition of the Miis on the Wii U was, of course, Super Smash Bros. You could finally play as your Mii as a fighter. Not only could you play as your Miis, but you could also unlock different costumes for them. Some of these were even Nintendo themed, and it gave the Miis another layer of customization that we'd never seen before. And to be honest, you haven't lived until you've seen Peter Griffin fight Mario in Pokemon Stadium. It's just beautiful. And with the release of Miis being in Smash Bros, they even got their own amiibo, a physical figure normally only given to the most prestigious Nintendo characters. And here are the Miis right there with their own one. And despite all of this, even though there was still quite a few games that included the Miis, it was definitely less than the Wii era. And with the Wii U not selling well at all, they sent a message to Nintendo, a message that they needed to change. But first they did the exact same thing on the 3DS.
Oh yeah, 3DS, it's me, Mario, what am I doing?
The 3DS was a really interesting place for Miis. Much like Miyamoto's early prototype on the GBA, with the 3DS you could take photos of you and your family and it would automatically create a Mii based on the photo. And well, this didn't work very well at all. It never seemed to make a Mii that looked anything like you. But oh boy, was it hilarious. The endless hours of fun me and my friends had making each other Miis on 3DSs that just looked nothing like us. Once again, Nintendo just pointing out our biggest flaws as a literal 8-year-old. Thanks, Nintendo. Except for that, the Mii Maker was basically exactly the same as what we got on the Wii U. Except there was one huge thing that would change Miis forever. And that was Street Pass. Street Pass was a feature on the 3DS where you'd shut your 3DS lid, put it in your bag, and go on about your day with your 3DS in your bag. And then the next time you opened your 3DS, you would be greeted with every single Mii of every single person that you walked past throughout the day. These Miis would be stored in your plaza and help you complete mini-games within the app. This was such an amazing idea. With the Wii and the Wii U, creating Miis was such a social thing. Friends and family would come over who hadn't seen the Wii before, and you'd sit there with them creating a Mii for them. However, with the 3DS being such a single-player experience, Street Pass allowed you to have this social collaborative experience with people that you just walked past in your day-to-day life. And the crazy bit to me is Street Pass is still a thing. If you've still got a 3DS, you can still use it. Although, I don't think you're going to find many people walking around with their 3DS in 2024. Actually, can 2024 be the year we bring back Street Pass, please? Thank you very much. Now, Street Pass was great, don't get me wrong, but the real star was one game that used the Miis in a way we'd never seen them before. And of course, that one game that changed everything was Face Raiders. I mean, look at this technical marvel of video games. Wow. Okay, in all seriousness, there was a game that completely changed how everyone looked at Miis, and that game was Tomodachi Life. And when I say that name, you're either in two groups of people. You're either asking, what's Tomodachi Life? I've never heard of that game. Or you're literally foaming at the mouth because you've put thousands of hours into the game. There is actually no in between. Tomodachi Life released for the 3DS in 2014 and was the sequel to Tomodachi Collection, a 2009 life simulator that came out on the DS exclusively in Japan because Nintendo thought it was far, far too weird for the West. So we're already off to a very weird start here. Tomodachi Life is like The Sims, except you couldn't directly control what your character did. And it was batshit insane. It follows whatever Miis you want to create as they live in an apartment block and form connections with other Miis living in that apartment block that you also put there. It's like Friends if you created every single one of the characters and they looked like this. As you can imagine, this leads to some very weird interactions. There are a bunch of random scenarios that your Miis can get up to. They can fall in love, have a baby, perform Thick of It by KSI. This is genuinely something I saw on TikTok. Man, if only I could go back and tell 8-year-old me how far gaming's come. I'd be so impressed. This game is so deep and so weird that here are a couple of clips from the game playing behind me. And out of context, they look like an absolute fever dream. To be honest, even in the context of the game, they still look like an absolute fever dream. This game was drastically different from any Mii game Nintendo had given us before. Instead of implying characteristics onto the Miis, this game literally gave them different characteristics, moods, and storylines that you could follow. It made your Miis full-fledged characters in your own little dollhouse of Miis. And whether that was a good thing or not, I'm not really sure from some of this footage. But it looked like after the shaky inclusion of Miis on the Wii U, Nintendo had found a weird but interesting way to use Miis once again. And that would only be further cemented when they released the next Mii game, Miitopia. Miitopia is a turn-based RPG featuring Miis that you create. The story goes that Miitopia was a nice, happy island, and then of course a big bad guy came down, stole all the faces of the inhabitants, and put them onto monsters, because of course. Your job is to get those faces back, destroy the big bad, and save the day. You know, pretty normal hero stuff. But what makes the game so interesting is that you pick the Miis in this story for every single character. You pick a Mii to represent you. You pick the Miis in your party. You even pick the Miis as shopkeepers. And the best one of them all is you pick the Mii who plays the big bad guy. This makes the game endlessly replayable as you create your own stories in your head of why they're fighting. Your first playthrough, the big bad guy could be Matt from Wii Sports, and on your second playthrough, he could be Danny DeVito if you want. But what's interesting about this game is, like Tomodachi Life, you don't have direct controls over the members of your party or other characters in the game. They will choose themselves what moves they do, what relationships they form, even what weapons they want. With the only caveat to that being, you have to buy them the weapons if you have enough money or not. This can lead to some really funny and or tense moments that you just would not see coming. Both Tomodachi Life and Miitopia got pretty good reviews and sold fairly well, but the fans loved it. Both of these games instantly became fan favourites. People still love both of these games to this day. Both games captured the imagination of so many people, and it seemed like Miis were back for good. Or at least, that's what we thought. In 2017, the Nintendo Switch was launched. And after the Wii U and one of the darkest periods in the company's history, Nintendo really needed a win. This meant that the Switch was very different from what we'd seen before. One, not only was it a home console, but you could also take it away as a handheld and play it on the go as well. But as well as this, it seemed a bit bare. The menu music was gone, and the charm of the menus just wasn't there anymore. It was replaced with a very simple, easy to use layout. And the worst part of it all, there was no Mii editor in sight anywhere. In fact, the only way to make a Mii on the Switch is to go into the system settings of the console. And basically all that could be done with that Mii once you had made it outside of any games was make it your profile picture. There was no Mii Plaza and no way to share Miis, and it seemed like Nintendo had done this purposefully to distance themselves from the Wii and Wii U era. Now don't get me wrong, I love the Switch. I think it's a great console. The portability, the games, everything about it I love. I'm literally holding a Switch controller. That's how much I like this console. However, I do feel like it's missing the charm of the Wii or the Wii U, and the lack of Miis really reflects this. And do you know what else reflects this? The lack of games with Miis in them. There's really not very many on the Switch. You have your usual Smash Bros, Mario Kart inclusions, but then things get really weird with the release of 1-2 Switch. It was like the Wii Sports of the Switch, except it wasn't free, and it cost $60. Nintendo. Why do you think I have this money? Especially for a game that makes me milk a cow and calls it a video game. Now, what was odd about this game, except milking cows, was that normally these tech demos would include Miis, but they were nowhere to be seen. And okay, that's fine. Maybe Nintendo just wanted to skip Miis for this game. That's cool, don't worry about it. But then this trend continues. We got Ring Fit Adventure, a spiritual successor to Wii Fit. And once again, no Miis. Instead, we get this kind of generic looking character that you can customize, but not really. But the worst example of all of this, the one that crushes me so deeply, was Switch Sports. In February 2022, Switch Sports was announced with this trailer, and oh my god, what are they? In this trailer, there was no Miis, just these weird knockoff-like Miis that you would have found in a Shovelware Wii game almost 14 years earlier. And when I say people were mad, I mean they were incredibly mad. The comments section of this trailer was filled with people asking for the Miis to come back. And rightly so. A Wii Sports sequel not to have Miis is actually crazy. And something that Nintendo wouldn't have done unless they were definitely trying to distance themselves from that era of gaming. Now, Nintendo did have to confirm that Miis were going to be playable in the game via a completely separate tweet. Don't know why they didn't put it in the trailer. But even then, they're not the default in the game. And all the CPUs you verse aren't Miis anyway. They're these things. What are they called? Sportsmates. Brilliant. Nintendo have gone back to just naming things exactly how they are. With the next console, they'll be asking me to make someone I know again. But even the Miis in this game just... they just don't look right. What have they done? My child! My boy! My boy! Now, apparently there was a cheat released later for Switch Sports that turned all the CPUs into Miis, but I shouldn't have to enter a cheat to do this. This should have been an option in the game from the beginning. However, in Nintendo's darkest hour, Miitopia came back to save it all. Yeah, we got a Miitopia remake in 2021, which added a bunch new features and a bunch more ways to customize Miis. This was literally out of nowhere. And with the release of this, fans were expecting a re-release of Tomodachi Life. I mean, it made logical sense to do that, right? Apparently not, because they never did it. And yeah, with the new Nintendo console apparently very close, doesn't look like we're going to be getting it anytime soon. Just to illustrate just how infrequent Mii games are now, there was 44 games on the Wii that included Miis in some way. There was only 8 on the Switch. 2 of them are ports of Wii U games, and 1 of them is a port of a 3DS game. And 1 of them is Switch Sports. So that doesn't count in any way. So that's 4 Mii games on the Switch. That's it. And with the Switch 2 right on the horizon, will we ever see a return to Miis? The future of Miis. It's not looking good. For many people born in the early 2000s, Miis were such a huge part of our gaming childhood. In all fairness, they were quite a big part of our normal childhood. From making our first Miis on the Wii to frantically trying to find out how to make one on Switch, because you can't have a Nintendo console without Miis, right? Well, unfortunately, I think that's the future for Nintendo. With the failure of the Wii U, it seems like Nintendo just want to get as far away from anything related to the Wii in any way. And that really worked for them. The Switch was such a huge console and really saved Nintendo. But the loss of the Miis seems to be the price we have to pay for that. With Nintendo marketing the Switch at young adults, they managed to find an audience that loved their console. But along the way, I feel like we lost a lot of the Nintendo charm. The whole mentality of this console's for young adults, so no music, simple layout, and no Miis just seems kind of odd to me. Because a lot of the people who grew up with those things on the Wii became diehard Nintendo fans because of the Wii, and proceeded to stick with them, even through the Wii U eras. And that was a really hard thing to do. The next Nintendo console seems to be a Switch 2 of some sorts. And with only 4 Mii games on the Switch and the lack of Miis in any form on the console altogether, I think this may be the last time we see Miis on a Nintendo console. And that is a huge shame, but times change. We grow up and so do many things we loved as a child. Miis will always be such a special thing to such a huge amount of people, including myself. And I just wish they could have had a better send-off than this. I hate this game. And if you want to see why I hate this game, click this video here. It's a really good video. I've heard this guy's a great YouTuber. Okay, bye.